I never thought there would come a day when my parents, the ones I always believed would be on my side, would bluntly say that my children were not welcome in their home. But that day, standing in the kitchen with my phone in hand, I felt like my entire world had just been turned upside down. Thanksgiving was approaching, and like every year, I was looking forward to it. Not just because of the meaning of the holiday, but also because it was an opportunity for my family to reunite. I could picture the familiar scene, my parents' house lit up, the smell of roasted turkey filling the air, and the laughter of everyone around the dinner table. But above all, I was looking forward to it because of my two kids, Ellie, 7 years old, and Liam, 4 years old. They loved their grandparents, and I knew they would be so happy to be with them. The call started off normally. "Hey, sweetie," my mom said, her tone softer than usual, as if she was trying to prepare me for something. "We need to talk about the Thanksgiving plans this year." I smiled. "Yes, Mom. What's the plan?" But right after that, there was a silence that lasted long enough to make me feel uneasy. "This year, we're going to do things a little differently," my mom said, her voice hesitant. "It's just going to be a small dinner, only for adults, you understand, right?" I frowned, a sense of discomfort rising in my chest. "You mean no kids?" My mom paused for a moment, as if she were weighing each word. "Not exactly," she replied, her voice becoming cautious. I sensed a storm brewing. "What do you mean?" She sighed, and when she spoke, I knew this would change everything. "Anna, your dad and I love Ellie and Liam very much, we really do. But they're a bit too active, you know. We just think it's best if you leave them at home with the babysitter this year." I gripped the edge of the kitchen table, trying to stay calm. "Just your children. What about Jake's family?" "Jake, my brother, the one my parents always favored. He and his family were always number one in their eyes." My mom hesitated, and in that moment, I knew the answer. "Jake and Sarah are coming. With their 2 kids," she confessed. "But you know, their kids are better behaved, less rambunctious. They're easier to have sitting at the dinner table." I felt like I had just been slapped in the face. A rush of heat coursed through me, not out of embarrassment, but because of anger. "They're just kids," I retorted, my voice catching. "Ellie is only 7, and Liam is just 4. Of course, they'll be lively, but they're very well behaved and love their grandparents." "How can you say that?" My mom interrupted me, her tone now colder. "We just want a peaceful evening, Anna. Don't take this personally." "Not personal." I clenched my teeth, swallowing down the bitter words that were threatening to spill out. This wasn't just about Thanksgiving. This was how my parents had always treated my children, like outsiders, while Jake's kids were cherished like treasures. They showed up for his kids' school performances but never for Ellie's dance recitals. Jake's Christmas gifts had always been better. And now, they weren't even trying to hide their favoritism anymore. "I can't believe this," I whispered, my voice trembling. "You're really saying my children aren't welcome, but Jake's kids are?" "Oh, Anna, don't make a big deal out of this," my mom sighed, as if I were the one being unreasonable. "It's just a dinner. You and Tom are still invited, of course." I almost laughed at the absurdity of this situation. They wanted me there, but they were excluding the 2 people I loved most in the world. I took a deep breath. "No, Mom. If my kids aren't welcome, then I'm not coming either." A long silence stretched between us, and then my mom sighed on the phone, as if I were the one making things difficult. "It's up to you," she said, and hung up. I stood there, staring at the phone, my breath uneven. From the living room, I could hear Ellie and Liam laughing as they were building a fort with pillows. They were still so innocent, unaware that their beloved grandparents had just viewed them as a burden. I took a deep breath, my mind swirling with thoughts. My whole life, I had tried to please my parents, to earn their approval. But if I let them do this, if I went to that dinner while my children sat at home wondering why they weren't good enough, what kind of mother would I be? No, I wouldn't do that. They had made their choice, and now it was time for me to make mine. That night, after the kids went to bed, I sat alone in the living room. The light from the lamp cast dim shadows on the walls. In my hand was a cup of tea that had long gone cold, but I didn't feel like drinking it. My mind spun with mixed thoughts and emotions. I looked at the picture frame on the shelf. It was a photo of the whole family from last year's Thanksgiving. Ellie and Liam were beaming, holding the cookies they had made themselves, while Jake and his family stood in the center of the photo, as if they were the stars of the day. I recalled the feeling when my mother praised Jake's kids, how smart they were, how polite, while hardly saying a word about Ellie and Liam. I had brushed those things aside. I always told myself I shouldn't take it to heart, that my parents' words and actions weren't always ill-intentioned. But this time was different. This time, they not only ignored my children, they outright dismissed them. I couldn't stop asking myself, what did I do wrong? I had always tried to be a good daughter. I'm not perfect, but I did everything within my power to maintain a relationship with my parents. So why were they treating me, and more importantly, my children, this way? Tom, my husband, walked into the room, pulling me out of my thoughts. He sat down beside me, a look of concern in his eyes. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice gentle yet filled with care. I shook my head, tears beginning to spill. "I don't know what to do anymore, Tom. I feel like I'm being forced to choose between my parents and my children." He took my hand, his gaze steady. "Anna, you don't have to choose. Our real family is here, you, me, Ellie, and Liam. If your parents can't accept that, then that's their issue, not yours." Tom's words were like a light in the darkness, but they also made my heart ache. Although I wanted to believe that my small family was all I needed, the truth was that I still craved recognition from my parents. I wanted them to love my children the way they loved Jake's child. I sighed, my eyes downcast to the cold cup of tea. But if I don't go, they'll think I'm selfish. I'll become the ungrateful daughter in their eyes. Tom tightened his grip on my hand. "And if you go, you'll let Ellie and Liam think they're not good enough to be loved. You'll make them feel abandoned. Anna, you're a great mother, and I know you would never let that happen." His words caught in my throat. I knew he was right. I couldn't let my parents impose their views on my children. Ellie and Liam deserved to be loved and cherished, not compared or dismissed. I stood up, walked to the window, and looked outside. The night sky was peaceful, the stars twinkling above. I remembered Ellie's eager eyes when she asked me about Thanksgiving last week. "Mom, can I help Grandma cook? I want to make leaf-shaped cookies." Liam then chimed in, "I want to eat turkey. I'll eat a lot." How could I tell them they weren't welcome? How could I let them feel they weren't good enough just for being themselves? I turned back to Tom, my gaze now more resolute. "You're right. If my parents can't accept Ellie and Liam, then I can't accept the way they treat them. We'll have Thanksgiving at home, just our family." Tom smiled, pulling me into his embrace. "I'm always with you, Anna. We'll make this holiday special, without anyone else." I nodded, feeling as if a great weight had been lifted. I knew this decision wouldn't be easy, my parents would surely be angry, and maybe they wouldn't talk to me for a while. But I also knew that as a mother, I couldn't let my children feel abandoned or unloved. That night, I sat down at the kitchen table, starting a list of the dishes that Ellie and Liam loved. I would make leaf-shaped cookies for Ellie and cook a big turkey for Liam. And when Thanksgiving Day arrived, would ensure my children felt the love and warmth, even if it only came from us, our little family. Finally, Thanksgiving Day has arrived. Gentle morning sunlight filters through the curtains, illuminating our small kitchen. Ellie and Liam are running around the dining table, their laughter echoing throughout the house. I stand by the stove, checking on the golden brown turkey, its aroma filling the air. "Can you help Mommy?" Ellie peeks into the kitchen, her eyes shining brightly. I smile, bending down to give her a hug. "Of course, my love. You can help me make cookies." Liam is not to be outdone, running into the kitchen with his little apron. "I want to make a turkey shape," he exclaims. All three of us work together to knead the dough, cutting the cookies into shapes of maple leaves, pumpkins, and even cute little turkeys. Tom stands nearby, holding the camera, capturing every moment. "Look at our little bakers," he says, making both Ellie and Liam burst into delighted laughter. But despite the warm and joyful family atmosphere, I still can't shake off the emptiness I feel inside. Occasionally, I glance at the phone on the kitchen counter, wondering if my parents will call or text. But the screen remains silent, with no notifications, no messages of congratulations. Tom notices my worry. He steps over, placing a hand on my shoulder. "You're doing great, Anna. Enjoy today with the kids. This is our family day." I nod, taking a deep breath. He is right. I can't let my parents' silence overshadow the joy of today. In the evening, the whole family sat gathered around the dining table. Ellie and Liam giggled at the sight of the turkey-shaped cookies they had made, placed right in the center of the table. Tom raised his glass of juice with a smile. "Happy Thanksgiving to my family. I know this isn't the holiday you were hoping for, Anna, but I think we've created something really special." I smiled, looking around the table. This wasn't a large celebration with everyone present, but it contained all the most important things to me: love, connection, and a warmth I had never felt so clearly before. As we began to eat, the doorbell unexpectedly rang. I was surprised and stood up to see who was arriving at this hour. When I opened the door, I saw Jake, my brother, standing there, holding a large box. "Jake?" I frowned, confused. "What are you doing here?" He gave a sheepish smile, his gaze a bit apologetic. "I heard Mom mention you weren't coming to dinner. I thought, maybe I should stop by. We are family, right?" I stood there, mixed emotions swirling within me. Part of me wanted to invite him in, but another part felt hurt. Jake had always been favored by our parents, and he had never truly sided with me in the conflicts between me and them. "Where are Ellie and Liam?" Jake asked, looking over my shoulder into the house. "I brought the pumpkin pie that the kids love." I sighed and opened the door wider. "Come in, Jake. But I'm not sure the kids will understand why Grandma and Grandpa aren't here." Jake stepped inside, placing the box on the table. Ellie and Liam ran over, squealing upon seeing the pumpkin pie. I stood there watching my brother laugh and play with my children, feeling a flicker of hope. Perhaps, even if our parents didn't change, there was still a chance to mend my relationship with Jake. As dinner came to an end, Jake prepared to leave. Before stepping out the door, he turned back to look at me. "Anna, I know parents aren't always fair. But I don't think they mean to hurt you. Maybe you should try talking to them again." I fell silent, unsure how to respond. After Jake left, I sat down on the chair, feeling exhausted. Just then, my phone rang. It was my mother. I stared at the screen, feeling my heart race. Tom walked over and placed a hand on my shoulder. "Do you want to answer it?" I took a deep breath and hit the answer button. "Mom." There was silence on the other end for a moment, Then my mother's voice came through, gentle but filled with emotion. "Anna, I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done that. I was wrong." I felt tears welling up, but this time not out of sadness, but relief. "Mom, can we talk, Anna? I want to make things right. I want to see Ellie and Liam." I paused, looking at Tom and the kids playing in the living room. I knew that things wouldn't change completely with just one call, but this could be a start. "Yes, Mom," I replied, my voice trembling. "But this time, I'm not going to let things be as they were. If you want to be a part of my life and the kids' lives, you have to accept them as they are." "All right, Anna. I understand," my mother said, her voice choking up. I hung up, feeling like I had just put down a heavy burden. I didn't know what the future would hold, but I knew I had done right by my little family. And that was what mattered most. A week after the call from my mom, I still felt like I was living in a dream. I couldn't believe that my mom had taken the initiative to apologize, something I never thought would happen. But I also knew that an apology couldn't change everything. The relationship between my parents and me had been damaged too much, and to heal, it would take more than just words. That morning, as I was preparing breakfast for the kids, the phone rang again. This time, it was a text from my mom. "Anna, I want to invite you and your small family to our house this weekend. Not for Thanksgiving, but because I want us to start over. I won't force anything, I just hope you'll consider it." I read the message, feeling my heart being pulled in two directions. One part of me wanted to refuse. I was afraid that everything would go back to how it was, that my mom would continue to compare Ellie and Liam to Jake's kids. But another part of me, the part that always craved love and recognition from my parents, wanted to try. Tom noticed the confusion on my face. "What's wrong?" he asked, placing a hand on my shoulder. I showed him the message. He read it, then looked at me with a gentle gaze. "What do you think?" I sighed, looking towards Ellie and Liam playing in the living room. "I don't know. I don't want to expose the kids to hurt again. But I also don't want to give up this opportunity." Tom nodded, thinking for a moment. "I think you should do what feels right to you. But if we go, I'll be by your side. And if things don't go well, we can leave at any time." His words made me feel more at ease. I decided to reply to my mom, "Okay, Mom. We'll come, but only for a short time. I hope things will be different." That weekend, our whole family drove to my parents' house. On the way, Ellie and Liam chattered away, asking me all sorts of questions. "Are Grandma and Grandpa making cookies, Mom? Can I play with my cousins?" I tried to smile, but inside I was still filled with anxiety. When we arrived, my mother was waiting at the door. She smiled, but I could see the worry in her eyes. "Hello, my dears," she said, her voice softer than I remembered. Tom held my hand as we entered the house. Dad was sitting on the sofa, looking at us with an unreadable expression. I felt tense, but Ellie and Liam were not. They ran straight to hug their grandparents, lightening the atmosphere. The meal that day was truly different. There were no comparisons, no stories that made me feel abandoned. Instead, my mother asked me about work, about Ellie and Liam's interests. Dad, though quiet, also laughed when Liam talked about his favorite toy car. I felt as if I were sitting at a different dinner table, a table I had never known before. But I also knew that this was just the first step. After dinner, when Tom took the kids out to play in the yard, my mother pulled me into the kitchen. She looked at me, her eyes full of emotion. "Anna, I know I was wrong. I let my expectations hurt you. But I truly want to change. I want to be a better grandmother for Ellie and Liam, and a better mother for you. I looked at my mother, feeling my throat choke up. Mom, I don't need you to be perfect. I just need you to accept us, all of us, without comparison or judgment. She nodded, tears rolling down her cheeks. I will try, Anna. I promise. That was the moment I felt a part of the burden in my heart lift. I knew my mother couldn't change overnight, but at least she was willing to try. As we left my parents' house that evening, Ellie and Liam were fast asleep in the back seat, their faces glowing from a day of happiness. Tom held my hand as he drove. How do you feel? He asked. I smiled, looking out the window. I think this is a start. Not perfect, but enough for me to feel hopeful. He nodded, his eyes filled with love. Whatever happens, our little family will always be our top priority. But I'm glad you had this opportunity. I looked back at the children in the back, feeling my heart warmer than ever before. I knew the journey ahead wouldn't be easy, but I also knew that love and patience could work wonders. Time passed, winter came with cold winds but also brought the warm atmosphere of Christmas and the new year. Since that meeting, the relationship between my parents and me has gradually changed. Not everything is perfect, but I can feel their efforts. The messages checking in, the phone calls to talk with Ellie and Liam, and the invitations to visit their home, all are signs that they are trying to become a part of my family. One day before Christmas, I received a large package from my mother. Inside was a blue knitted scarf that she had made by hand, along with a card that read, Dear Anna, I know I can't change the past, but I hope that I can do better in the future. Thank you for giving me the chance. Love you, Mom. I held the card, feeling tears rolling down my cheeks. It was not just a gift, but a confirmation that my mother truly wanted to amend her mistakes. A year later, when Thanksgiving came around again, I decided to do something I never thought I would do, invite the entire extended family to our house. Tom looked at me in surprise when I suggested this idea. Are you sure? He asked. I nodded. Yes. I think we have come a long way. And I want the kids to feel the true meaning of family, not just those who are always perfect, but those who are willing to make an effort for each other. Tom smiled and hugged me. I'm proud of you, Anna. That day, our little house was filled with laughter and the smell of turkey, cookies, and pumpkin pie. Ellie and Liam ran around the house, playing with their cousins. Jake and I sat at the table, talking like old friends, with no more distance or misunderstandings. My mom, for the first time, took the initiative to compliment Ellie and Liam. These two kids are so smart and creative, she said, her eyes full of pride. I looked at her, feeling my heart warm. My dad, although still quiet, spent time playing chess with Liam, making the boy giggle throughout the afternoon. When dinner ended, I stood up, raised my glass, and said, Today, I want to thank everyone, not just for being here, but for making an effort to make us a real family. Thanksgiving is not just about what we have, but also about the people we love. And I am so grateful to have all of you here today. The dining table fell silent for a moment, then my mom stood up, walked over, and hugged me. Thank you, Anna, for not giving up on this family. As night fell, after everyone had left, I sat by the window, watching the snow fall outside. Tom approached, placing his hand on my shoulder. Are you okay? I turned around, smiling. I have never felt better than this. He sat down beside me, looking at me with gentle eyes. I think you have done something wonderful, not just for the larger family, but also for our small family. I nodded, feeling my heart filled with peace. I knew that life would never be perfect, and families were the same. But it is that imperfection that gives it special meaning, that we love each other not because we are perfect, but because we are willing to try for one another. Ellie and Liam slept soundly on the sofa, their faces glowing after a day full of joy. I looked at my children, feeling that I had done the right thing. I had protected my small family, but also did not give up on the larger family. And in that moment, I realized that no matter what happens, family will always be where my heart belongs.